everyone, this is Athena from Courage Coaching. Thank you for stopping by my channel today. If you are new here, then please click on the subscribe button in order to get notifications for any new videos that I upload. Now, in today's video, I would like to talk about something that is known as trauma dumping. And what are some of the signs of trauma dumping? Trauma dumping happens when someone shares a story of trauma without actually considering its impact or its control on another person. Most often, trauma dumping doesn't leave room for the listener to actually opt out of the conversation. While trauma dumping can offer relief or a sense of gratification to the person who is actually doing this, those on the receiving end may actually feel drained, frustrated, sad, angry, or taken advantage of. Unfortunately, the line between trauma dumping, reaching out for support, and being constructively vulnerable is often quite blurry. And if you are a highly self-conscious or socially anxious individual, you may worry about being perceived as toxic because you overshare your needs or your traumatic experiences with others. And a lot of trauma survivors will actually overshare and do a lot of trauma dumping because they genuinely want to connect with others and they want others to like them and accept them for who they truly are, with all of their trauma and all of their baggage. Now, what are some signs of trauma dumping? Firstly, the individual doing this may share the same details or the same story again and again. So they will do this repeatedly. They will constantly talk about their trauma and bring this into many casual conversations. They will also tend to do this with people that don't really know them that well. So they won't have good boundaries and they will share this with people when it is actually inappropriate. People who trauma dump will also intentionally choose people who have no choice but to listen or who feel obligated to listen. Trauma dumping can also look like posting very graphic details or detailed accounts on social media about their trauma. If you live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma dumping or oversharing is actually a trauma response and a coping mechanism. So don't be too hard on yourself if you discover that you do this. Now, what is the difference between trauma dumping and venting? Now, venting is different from trauma dumping, because trauma tends to involve the same stories again and again, whereas venting may look like talking about a bad day that you've had once or something bad that's happened, but then you let it go. The purpose of venting is actually to just blow off steam. And it's okay for people to do this. It's okay for people to do this at work with colleagues that they are possibly close to. Venting is generally healthy because you just get it off your chest and you can sort of move on with your day. And it doesn't affect the other person negatively. On the other hand, however, when somebody uses trauma dumping to get sympathy or preferential treatment from somebody else, this is actually quite controlling. This isn't healthy. So this is where you need to be aware of the differences of venting and trauma dumping. Now, trauma dumping is not the same as educating others about your trauma or your experiences, or seeking support from loved ones, or sharing a space of vulnerability or intimacy with a safe person or a therapist. This isn't trauma dumping. This is all normal and healthy behavior, because everybody needs support, especially those individuals that have a history of trauma. But the important thing we must remember is that it's about not going too far with this, not overdoing this, not sharing our stories again and again with the wrong people or repeating the same thing again and again. This isn't healthy, and this is when we need to take a step back. Now, talking about trauma isn't in itself a harmful behavior. In fact, it may be necessary in some cases. However, context is key when evaluating if sharing about one's traumatic experiences is conducive to healing and is safe for everybody involved, especially those on the receiving end. Now, there are a couple of questions that you could ask yourself in order to distinguish whether you are somebody who actually trauma dumps. I've got a list of questions here, so I'm just going to quickly read through them. The first one is, how is my sharing impacting others? Have I given the other person a chance to share as well? Why am I sharing this story? Is it because I have a relationship of mutual trust with this person? Or because it feels good to do this in the moment? Have I given the other person a chance to opt out of this conversation? So this could maybe look like, look, I'm really sorry that I'm saying all this. It might be a bit too heavy for our current chat. So please, if it's too much, then tell me. Something like that. Does the other person seem comfortable with the topic that you are talking about? Do they feel comfortable hearing you talk about your traumatic experiences? Have they told you how they feel about this topic in the past? Now, these are all good questions which can get you thinking about whether you talking about your trauma is appropriate. And it always depends on context, and it always depends, of course, on the person that you are sharing this with. So, have you experienced this, or do you think that you may be somebody who does this? Like I said, trauma dumping is a trauma response, or you can look at it as a sign that you are ready for support, or that you are ready to open up to somebody like a therapist or a counselor. So just be observant of this. I think it's very important to understand when we may be crossing somebody's boundaries, when we may be talking too much about ourselves or our experiences, or when we may be sharing with the wrong people. Because if you share your trauma with somebody who isn't safe, they may invalidate you or criticize you or tell you to stop talking about it or not understand, just simply not want to understand you or listen to you. And this will possibly re-traumatize you. So I would suggest that it's better to be very careful with who you share your traumas with, your past with. It is always better to share it with other individuals who have also experienced something similar. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. If you would like to share your experience with this, then please feel free to do so in the comment section below the video. Take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.